Thank you for the question and answer session. Delegates, if you have any other questions, kindly raise your hand.
All right, thank you all. Thank you all for this opportunity. I'm hearing a lot of great topics, and will continue to listen. Thank you all. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. It's my great pleasure to introduce our next keynote speaker, Mr. Nomi Khedawala, SR Technical Program Manager, Reddit, San Francisco, California. His topic is Talent as the Engine of Emerging Startup Ecosystems. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Nomi Khedawala.
Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you are in the world. Just want to say before I get started, thank you for the opportunity. Hopefully, I will leave you all something to think about and some food for thought. Yeah, we'll dive in. Cool. Yeah, just a little bit about myself. I've been working in technology, the project management space for a little over 10 to 11 years now. Also worked very closely with startups and founders on fundraising, on scaling, and just overall advisement as well. So, having done all of that over the course of my career, there's a couple of things that I've noticed in some of the time that I've spent both in the Middle East and in India as well. So when people ask what powers a startup ecosystem, we usually point to founders and funding. And while those do matter, the real engine, in my opinion, is talent. The operators who translate ambition and capital into repeatable global scale. So, as I mentioned, spent a lot of time in the Middle East and in India, and the pattern, in my opinion, is pretty consistent. That ambitious founders, healthy capital, and a gap in scale-up experience exists in a lot of these emerging ecosystems. It's not a lack of intelligence or a lack of ambition or a lack of hustle. It's really a lack of people who personally navigated the scale-up process from going from finding that product market fit to getting to the global scale. And that talent ultimately is what really allows a regional presence to become a global contender and take some of the market share away from a lot of the vertical leaders in whatever space that a startup may be in. So at a high level, of course, there are other players that are kind of in the ecosystem. But just for the purposes of time and the purpose of this talk, at a high level, the way that I kind of see startup ecosystems is kind of in this trinity of founders, talents, and investors. Founders are the ones that are actually creating the value and establishing the cultural foundation of the region, of the startup, and driving the innovation and shaping the direction of their ventures. Talent ultimately is what builds the machine, the systems, the teams, the standards within the company, and the culture that sustains the speed and sustains the speed of scaling. And data does back this. So, equitizing more than 3 advisors, creating 5+ connections to top ecosystems, and broader and more impactful employee stock options can actually 15 times the odds of scaling to 50 million plus. And that's talent density and connectivity at work. So taking a look at the MENA region, early on, the region had really two big anchors, Souk and Kareem. While Souk did achieve unicorn status, ultimately they lost some value and were acquired for 580 million USD by Amazon. And then you have Kareem, who was acquired for 3.1 billion by Uber. And they were really the two biggest unicorns to come out of the region. And they proved that it was possible. And they also created alumni networks with capital and experience. On the back of their success in the last few years, you've seen other companies like Tabby, who've now hit 3.3 billion in valuation, Kitobi, who's now also a unicorn at 1.6 billion valuation, and others in Egypt like Fowry crossed 1 billion in market cap, and M&T Holland passed 1 billion as well. So the momentum is there, but talent depth is uneven across geographies and functions, which ultimately limits the pace of scaling and these repeatable exits and these repeatable valuations as well. Looking at a similar region, in India, for example, India actually now has the third most unicorns by count. And well-known companies like Flipkart, Postman, Lenskart, Freshworks, these are just a slice of the overall picture. But at the same time, 73% of H-1B approvals in FY23 went to Indian-born talent. And for those of you unfamiliar, H-1B is the U.S. work visa that a lot of foreign talent will apply for here in the U.S., especially here in Silicon Valley. So there is also brain drain happening as well. And a lot of those foreign-born talent and engineers are coming to Silicon Valley and helping these companies scale. So India is producing great operators and great talent, but many build their first companies abroad, especially in the US. So locally, the operator bench is growing through some of these companies who are training up, who are becoming unicorns, who are training folks, having successful exits, and creating their own alumni as well. But that's going to take time, and that's going to be a while before we really see a lot of them coming into the global stage as well. So I'm sure if you're in the space of startups and if you're keeping an eye on things, I'm sure you've heard of in the US what we call the PayPal Mafia, which is essentially alumni of the early employees of PayPal who have now gone on to be very impactful, influential startup founders, investors, advocates, what have you. I'm sure you've heard of a few of them, Peter Thiel being one of them, Elon Musk is one of them. A very well-known angel investor, Dave McClure, is also one of them. So all that to say, the fastest way, in my opinion, to densify talent is anchor outcomes that spin out operators. So Silicon Valley had, like I mentioned, the PayPal Mafia wave, and now in the Middle East, you're seeing the Kareem alumni wave. So the folks coming out of Kareem so far, as of 3 months ago, they started over 100 startups and have raised over 600 million USD. It's also over 17 countries, which is exactly what you're hoping to achieve. So we want to create mentors, angels, incredible leaders who are coming out of these companies to bring the next generation kind of up the curve, shorten the learning curve, and help others scale as well using their experience. So the goal really is to intentionally manufacture those alumni effects and not just kind of hope for them and hope that they come out of them, or not hoping that they don't just emerge as a result of just general activity. We want to be really intentional about ensuring that there's this feedback loop of these alumni really passing on their experience, passing on what they've acquired through their careers back into the startup ecosystem as well. And lastly, as far as like what can we do, what can anyone do? So if you're a founder, it's really important that we focus on talent and appoint equity advisors for guidance. So what do I mean by that? I mean really trying to connect with and have folks in your corner, have folks on your bench, have folks in your company that have kind of been there, done that, whether it's full-time or fractional across the product space, engineering, revenue, finance, etc. You ideally want to, like I mentioned earlier, have at least 3 equity holding advisors, and really having a structured path on exactly how are you going to utilize their talent through setting up OKRs, having quarterly check-ins, and ensuring that you are on a path towards whatever it is that you're looking to achieve, whether it's your first $1 million raise, whether it's a specific valuation, whether you're looking to scale in another country. Those advisors and that talent ultimately is what's going to help you to create the systems and create the standards that are going to be sustainable as you continue to go from just a startup to a scale up. For investors, building an operator network by phases and by function. So having advisors or an operator network that can help pre-seed, can help seed stage, Series A, Series B, etc., is pretty important. And they will all have different challenges. They will all have different strategies on how to tackle some of the things that those founders and those companies are going to be experienced, especially in those stages. There's options such as like a rotational operator in residence as well across the portfolio companies that investors have, and tying some capital to critical hires and advisor activation as well, and even sponsoring diaspora fellowships for a certain amount of time on the ground to have that knowledge transfer across geographies as well. So for example, in the case of the Middle East or in India, having a Middle East or India diaspora sponsorship as well in those regions. So bringing in, some of the people that have come over to Silicon Valley, or some of the folks that have gone on to Europe, to London, etc., having them come back to the country and kind of impart their knowledge as well back to the startup ecosystem on the ground. And lastly, for operators, engagement is huge, right? So for people who are actually doing the work, who know how to do the work, it's really important that they share what they know, they share what they've experienced across sales enablement, product, FP&A, what have you, and really help these companies publish systems and standards internally that can then be shared across the ecosystem as well. And through all of these things, of course, there's other things that I didn't go into. There's things that governments can do. You've seen places like the Middle East offering different types of visas, places in Europe also doing the same to really attract talent to bolster their startup ecosystem as well. These aren't the only things. These are just some of the things that I can advise, given the time and the elevation at which we are speaking about today. Yeah, lastly, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. It was a pleasure. Hopefully you all got something out of this. I know I did, and yeah, looking forward to all the other talks, and thank you to the previous speakers as well for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful keynote. Participants, if you have any questions, kindly raise your hand.
Yeah, hi, Nomi.
Hey.
My question is, in what ways can talent shape and influence innovation landscape on a global scale?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things is there's global events that also happen, right? So accelerators, there's pitch competitions, there's conferences that happen. So, if you are doing well, if you are finding that success, be vocal about it, share that success, whether it's social media, LinkedIn, whether it's conferences. Similarly to here, like I'm, I'm also sharing my insights with you also. Yeah, I mean, I think publicity is the best way to do that, and whether that's digital or in person. So really getting those things out there and educating people about what you are doing, how you are doing it, why it's working, and what is the success that you're finding, I think is the best way to really have that impact. I think it all comes down to influence.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for the question and answer session. Delegates, if you have any other questions, kindly raise your hand. Thank you once again. There are no more other questions. It's my great pleasure to introduce our next keynote speaker, Mr. Jim Saliba, Leadership Strategist. Leadership strategist, coach, author, and lead like a CEO. His topic is how to lead without needing a fire extinguisher. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Jim Saliba.